So I'm hoping to have this one somewhat more orderly. Discussions between anybody here in the room will be heard one at a time, with please no crosstalk or interrupting anybody. Let them finish their statement, and then we'll move on from there. And I ask that board members, please don't solicit any comments or from the public or from somebody else on the board or interruptions. I'm asking everybody please not to raise your hands, because that's kind of disruptive also. It's kind of visual here, but the train of thought, we're at a board meeting and you're here to watch us do our meeting. There'll be a time for public comment. Please don't ask questions at that time or expect any answers. The office is closed. We're not going to go in and find research and find answers for the questions. It's a time for comments to the board. If you have questions, we're open every day. Anybody can come in and get a question answered. Please address the board, anybody on the board, through the chair. Don't begin an argument or conversation with anybody. Try to keep it one at a time and through the chair. These are pretty simple rules. If they can't be followed and if it gets out of hand, we'll just adjourn the meeting to another time or remove its disruption if that's the case. And I guess we can consider these instructions a first warning so that we don't have to say, hey, you were told, because you were told. I just want this to run smoothly and we can conduct our business, because that's what we're here for. We do have a sign-in sheet for anybody that wants to address the board. It's here. We have 2 people signed up. So if there's no others, if you have signed in, that's great. If you don't have to, but we recommend it so that we can have a record of who attended the meeting. Okay,
You ready for roll call?
please.
Okay, Kaiser,
Present.
Klein,
Here.
Supervisor,
Here.
Clerk, here, Freeman,
Here.
Okay, approval of the agenda. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Support?
I'll support it.
Okay, motion and a second to approve the agenda. Any discussion on the agenda? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, agenda approved. New business, rough draft of Parks and Recreation Ordinance. I'm going to refer this to Clerk Comber, who has put drafts of, I guess, the current or proposed.
Yeah, well, everything I have here is a draft. I mean, there's nothing, I don't think there's anything that I put down here that it's not a draft. So the question is whether or not you want to adopt the rough draft of the Parks and Recreation Ordinance, or you don't, which I handed out at the last meeting as homework. It's the same thing now as it was then.
Well, as I recall, there was discussion as to doing an outreach to citizens to give input on what they would, the people that own this park, which includes everybody, we were gonna get people to speak to this ordinance and see what they wanted to do here. But that, we haven't done that. So I don't know why not. I think people should have input as to the rules for their park.
Were there any, excuse me, Mr. Colbert, were there any changes to this ordinance that you had?
Not from the one I handed out, 2 weeks ago or whatever?
Okay,
And
so this is the current ordinance that's in effect, that's been through public hearings, I'm assuming.
no, there's some changes in it from more than 2 weeks ago. For example, I'll give you one. We have no Park and Recreation Committee. So the top of it says Briley Township Community Enrichment Committee, which
Right.
you said we're gonna develop for example, that's a difference from previously, before August 19th. I don't know that there's any other differences before August 19th except that one. If there is, I don't recall it. I don't think there is.
How do you develop an ordinance for something that doesn't exist yet? You're gonna name a committee that doesn't exist on an ordinance you're trying to adopt right now.
Well,
There is a
I'm
committee.
not necessarily trying to adopt it, I'm trying to get it, before the group. If they wanna adopt it, fine and good. If they wanna postpone it until
Did I
after there's a
misunderstand him?
committee.
He said that something we're
That's
hoping
okay,
to
too.
develop.
Yeah, we're gonna, hopefully the community will, like Nancy said, there'll be more people coming in and joining this committee to where it can make recommendations.
I would like the people to evaluate, this board has plenty of input, and I would like citizens to evaluate what they would like as rules in this park. They're very capable of doing that, we have many talented people, so I think that it should go to them. And then if we have any input on their work, then we'll talk to them about it. But they have input into what goes on in their park, that's what I'm asking for.
Well, I'll make a motion that we adjourn this particular issue until October 7th, which is our public hearing meeting. And then-
That's right,
And
and we'll-
everybody that wants to can say whatever they want.
Well, and give copies out to people that are interested in taking a look at this document and helping establish whatever they want
I'll
for an
second
ordinance there.
I'll second it.
So that's October 7th, and the time on that I've forgotten at this moment.
Motion in a second to,
I can't remember for sure either. I'm pretty sure it's 4:30, but I'll
Okay,
make sure and look.
and we have to let people know that this document is available for them to evaluate. I gave mine to somebody last time, but they need a copy of this particular draft and the one little change you would like to make.
Okay, this is a roll call, so Kaiser,
Yes, let's get this to the people.
Klein,
Yes.
Supervisor,
yes.
Clerk, yes.
Yes.
Okay, now Mrs. Kaiser, would you like to propose somehow to get this communicated out to the general public?
Sure. I would like the people here to choose someone before you go, to take this, copy it, and get people that are not usually in these loops to help you take a look at this and write down what you want, okay? And if you would decide, before you go, to pick somebody that is here, to reach out to people and give them this document so you can all decide what you would like to do at your park. Would you be agreeable to that?
Can you address the chair, please? Through the chair. Discussion
All
through the
right,
chair.
all right, and when I have an audience before me, I tend to look at them when I speak.
Gotcha.
Okay, and it's no diss on you, but when you're talking to people, I think you should establish eye contact. So I'm talking to you now, and I'll try to look at you when I
No, I'm
talk
just
to you.
saying, it's a board meeting, and we're trying to make a decision as a board.
You
I
want-
just asked them to do something, Bruno, and I'm not dissing you.
I
You wanna put it
understand,
in
but
the paper?
But I did ask to not solicit. Thanks
Have
for
her put it in the paper.
Does the group want to put a notice in the paper?
That would be fine, if we just put something in the ad section of the paper, whereas, a community member has this document and would like input.
That a motion?
Yes, that can be a motion. Someone here today
I'll support that.
does the outreach.
I think it'd be fair to put in there that if somebody doesn't have a copy and needs one, they should be able to stop at the office and get one.
I would agree with that.
Oh, sure.
Okay. Any more discussion on the motion?
I would suggest that Yvonne take and utilize this and put it in her column as well.
She usually tells people what goes
And
on
that's
here.
nicely.
Well, it'll be in, like, in other business that you're publishing a document for
Great.
public review, so
Great,
you
thank
don't
you,
have to watch for it.
thank you.
Okay. Okay.
And it'll be reviewed on the October, and we'll try to get you that time
Yeah,
nailed down.
I thought
Thank
it was
you.
4:30.
that should.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those
I'm
opposed?
agreeable.
Well, we're spending money. Roll call.
We're spending money? Oh, yeah, okay. Kaiser,
Yes.
Klein,
Yes.
supervisor,
Yes,
clerk, yes, treasurer,
Yes,
motion passed. Okay, rough draft of collaborative agreement.
this is specifically not asked to be passed. It's specifically says this would be our proposal to the public on October 7th. It would not be a done deal at all. It would just give, basically, a point, something we could discuss. And if people wanted to add to it, fine. If they wanted to take away from it, that would be fine. But we'd give everybody on October 7th something to discuss. So I'm gonna move that we adopt this as a draft for the public to discuss at our October 7th public meeting.
Is there a need to adopt it as a draft, or can we just present this to the people and then address it when they have input into this issue?
Well, we could do either one, except if we just present this, then it isn't the board's position, and it isn't what we can agree on. If there's no changes, because everybody will still have an opinion. We won't have agreed that we should give the people a chance to vote on this particular thing. So I think we should make it a draft and
Well, my opinion may change when I get input from the people.
well, of course, that's why it's a draft.
Okay,
Well, it's
Well, but-
obviously already a draft, so
okay,
why do
I'm
we
gonna,
have to
I'm gonna
adopt
call
the
us to
draft?
order.
Thank
We're talking to each other. You made a motion, has not been supported yet. Can you finish your motion yet? Or repeat it?
repeat
Because
it.
it has not been supported.
Okay, the motion is to adopt this collaborative agreement as a rough draft that we can present to people to cut apart or agree with or whatever they want to do at our October 7th meeting. And this is necessary because this is just a rough draft that I put together. This isn't anything I'm married to or anything, and so we need to present that we think this is good, or we need to present that we think this is bad, or we need to be neutral, or we need to do something, but we need, if we're gonna pass this out to people, which we are, of course, then we need people to know what our position is.
I'm
I'll
not taking
second
a
it.
position until I talk to the people.
That's
There's a
fine.
reason for me
I'll
to.
second.
Okay.
I
Well, you're
want
not
to be
taking a
done.
position, you're just making a
I'm-
draft.
Okay,
You're not
just
taking
a
a
minute.
position. Yeah,
Just a
okay, I'm
minute.
sorry.
We have a motion and a second now. You did second that, correct?
Yes,
Okay, we have a motion and a second to
Top the
formally adopt the draft as,
A discussion
at least
point.
Mr. Comer's position, which is not bad.
It's a discussion point. No, it's not even
No,
my
it's a
position,
good place
it's
to
just a
start.
discussion
It's just a
point.
draft.
Yeah,
And if you think it's necessary, I don't see a problem with voting on it and having it in there. That way it's at least a document that we can hand out. So I don't have a problem with that motion.
And
I
it'll
kind
say
of
draft.
understand it.
You can hand this
Right.
out to anybody right at this point without doing anything, but go right
I
ahead.
think I'd
Understood.
have to tend to agree with you. I don't understand
I don't either.
voting on
It doesn't-
something that doesn't have to be voted on.
Right.
Anybody want this? I could actually hand it to you right now.
Sure.
Okay, can we please run a
Oh,
board
nope,
meeting
we
here?
can't talk to the audience.
Please. We have a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion on the table? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Absolutely not.
No, I only heard three ayes and one no. So how did
Okay.
you vote, Rick?
You voted.
Yeah, I guess if we have to vote on this, I
It's-
don't have a problem giving it to the
Okay,
people.
so it's
Motion-
4-1?
Motion passed.
Okay. Yeah, but I wanted to know what the count was.
Okay. Rough draft of election ballot language.
Here again, these are not even proposals. They're things for you to look at and see if you think that we should adopt these items or not. So I'll start it off by saying that I move to adopt the part ballot language, and if it's adopted, to send it to legal for them to inspect to make sure it's well done. That'll be my motion.
The park ballot language?
Yeah. She seconded it.
I'll second it.
Okay, we don't
Okay.
Why
have,
don't
we can
send all-
discuss.
Why don't we send all
okay,
of them?
motion and a second to adopt.
I don't think we should do them all at the same time, do you?
Okay,
Okay,
I think we should,
one by
Okay.
one, okay.
yeah.
okay, there's a motion to accept this draft for whatever reason, but here and again, in item 1, you're asking for these levies to cover a 20-year period, and I don't think that's fair to the people at all. And as far as the language, that's the clerk's job, and they usually don't have to go to legal because you learn how to write them, but how can you be comfortable with asking people to commit to a millage for 20 years? So there's a lot of things to not be comfortable in these drafts, and I've read them. And why do we always, and see, you'll see throughout here, you wanna do this to people from 2020 to 2040?
We're not
And
doing
then
this to people.
Can you, no?
for all these years,
Please let Nancy finish.
Yeah, I will.
for all these years, people are just supposed to pay and not have any input as to what we're doing with their money. I'm not agreeable to even seeing this as a draft.
Well, we're not imposing anything on anybody. This is a matter of if the people vote. Now, if the 20 years is too long, it's obviously, it can be changed. If it's whatever, but anyway, we're not doing anything to the people. This is for a vote, just like the marijuana thing is, it's for a vote. If they want the park millage, they'll pass it. If they don't want the park millage, they won't. We're not doing anything to anybody.
Can I ask you why you put 20 years?
Because it's the longest that you're legally allowed.
Okay.
Can I ask a question, please?
Absolutely.
Is this part of the same October 7th meeting?
No, no, no,
These
no.
drafts?
They
No, no, no,
came
no,
up
no,
there
these
to,
are- These are ballot
Well, I'm sorry, the reason I'm asking, because we're gonna sit here and we're gonna vote on drafts of things that are drafts. They don't have to be voted on. If they're part of another meeting where we're actually gonna work on them, that's where a draft becomes,
Right.
you know,
proposal.
useful. You're right.
The motion is to adopt this
A draft.
language.
that I don't agree with, and so I will
I'm
not.
sorry, I can't support it. Not when they say 20 years.
Okay.
No draft.
I have a
And
question
really,
to the board, and I guess to the board, anybody can answer this. Does anybody think the park is gonna go away within 20 years?
No.
that is not the point.
No, but there's gonna be different requirements that come up along the way. And, you know, the millage that's being proposed might not even be the right one. There might be grant opportunities that come available where we don't need the millage. You know, even with the cemetery, I mean, there's no absolute reason why there needs to be 20 years agreed upon to have a millage for.
I agree with that.
If after 5 years, we need another millage, you go back and you ask again. But don't shove 20 years down their throat just because that's the only thing that's seems
the max.
relevant.
We're not
Okay.
shoving,
Well,
shoving
I
anything
understand
in
that,
there.
but going with the max isn't even required.
Okay.
What's the minimum?
And
They
you know what
usually
else?
go for
What's the
4
minimum?
years.
What's the minimum?
Probably 1 year, I don't know.
They
But
usually
what
go
else
for
is
4
that?
years here.
If you give the people 1 year, right, if the people approved a 1-year millage and you actually showed them that you were capable of doing something with that, they might be agreeable to vote for something that says 5 or 10 years. But saying I want 20 years right off the get, and then you do nothing with it, that's a mistake.
The 1 year may be a mistake because instead of getting a renewal then, because you may not have another election for 2 years. to get-
Again, it is typical that this board has went in the past, and these people know it because they paid it. 4 years is the most we've asked for road or parks and rec or cemetery, okay? So that gives you assurance to prove to you that we actually did what you asked us to do with your money. And I don't recall of us going shorter than, or longer than 4 years, but I'm not going to approve something that says I'm gonna obligate you to 20 years, no matter what any board does with the money. And we have an election come November 2020, and we have no idea who's gonna be here, or how, if we're not handling their money right, well, what assurance do they have the next board is going to?
I can agree with you, but millage money is restricted funds. It has to be used solely for the purpose that the millage was collected. But that being said, are you, you have a motion and a second. Are you willing to discuss an amendment to the motion to change the length? Because that seems to be the biggest obstacle here is the term. of the
Sure.
millage.
Sure, I mean, I'm not married to this,
No,
it's just something I put
I
out for
want-
discussion.
I'm not voting on any draft. I wanna see exactly what you're asking these people to use their money for. And when it comes to like a road millage, are we moving this money around? Are we working with the county as to what roads to do? Are we taking input from the people as to what roads to do? Because if we just go with the squeaky wheel, then you get your road done. But we need to know, and we need to be fair to people, to move these repairs or paving of roads around, so everyone has a chance to have their road paved, okay? And we need to do that so we can get away from the expense of brining, which doesn't last people very long, and then on their road, they eat dust.
We're on the park.
So when are we gonna
We're
get
not
to
talking
those
about
folks?
roads.
Yeah, I get it.
So a lot more thought needs to go into these things, where I will not approve them until we have something decent to present to the people in writing.
Change it to 4 years instead of 20.
Well,
That what you want? Okay, I'll accept that amendment.
Okay. They're retracting the motion.
We're actually out of order as far as the agenda goes.
yes.
The park ordinance doesn't, or the park ballot doesn't show up until item 7, and we're currently at item 3.
Yes, that would be a valid point too.
Uh,
The rough draft,
Number
what really is
7.
the rough draft of the election
Yeah.
ballot is 3. And then we've got rough draft of the park ballot, but Ricky isn't, I think Mr. Klein is is
believe
correct
that-
here.
I believe that's
That
a
the
type.
park, the rough draft park ballot question and noxious weed ordinance seems to be talking about the same thing as the rough draft election things, because parks are on that ballot. It is confusing.
I think rough draft